Welcome back, everybody. Our next speaker believes that over time, VR will converge with AR and the World Wide Web to enable the immersive web, a new type of virtual experience, connected, social, and low friction, requiring no downloads or installs, accessible at the click of a link, and democratized so that anyone can create and publish VR AR content. Here to talk on how the development of this web is already underway is virtual reality pioneer, author, and entrepreneur Tony Parisi, VP of Web and Open Platforms at Weaver. Please join me in welcoming Tony to the stage.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks very much, Tom. Good morning, everyone. I was pretty inspired. I heard Anna Serrano's talk earlier. I think you're going to hear echoes of that if you were here this morning. And what I'm saying, though, I'm going to kind of tackle it a little bit more from a technology and business point of view. First, just to give you a little bit of my background, thanks for that great intro, Tom. I'm currently VP of Web and Open Technologies at Weaver, a Venice Beach-based VR content and platform provider for VR. We've made some of the signature experiences in virtual reality. If you've ever gotten a Vive demo, the first thing you probably saw was the Blue from Weaver, that wonderful underwater experience where you're basically having an encounter with a 40-foot whale on a sunken ship under the sea. Fabulous stuff. This eye chart that shows you my background will explain that I've been at this for about 20 years or so. Initially working on a technology called VRML, the Virtual Reality Markup Language, which was an attempt to take 3D graphics and present them on the web. Didn't work so well back at the time because people had computers that didn't run fast enough and nobody had broadband, but the ideas were really good. And a lot of the ideas that were inherent in that, I'm going to talk about today. I live in San Francisco, even though the company's in Venice Beach, and I run a couple of meetup groups in the city, one on WebGL and one on WebVR, which we're going to talk about at the end of this talk today. And I'm an author. I've written a few books. The latest one is an intro book on VR called Learning Virtual Reality from O'Reilly & Associates. So that's me. So let's get into it. If you're here today, you've probably drunk the Kool-Aid about VR and AR together being the next platform for doing everything digitally. That we think the virtual headsets, whether you're fully immersed and the world's blocked out in VR, or whether you're integrating with the real world through AR, that we're going to get our information and our entertainment primarily through these vehicles at some point in the future. The press believe it, not just the trade press, the mainstream press. People are instantly converted. If they've never tried VR before, they just love it, and they're delighted by it. Never seen such consumer interest, conversion on contact, as my friend Greg Castle likes to say. And billions predicted by the pundits, the market analysts, and wildly varying billions, but lots of billions over the next 5 years. So if we all believe in that future, then I'm going to ask, and myself then answer, the following question. How are VR and AR going to get on everyone's face in the next 5 years? And I'm here to say it's not going to be one app at a time. The currently deployed VR systems, which are out of the gate sooner than AR commercially, have taken primarily an app store model for delivering content, applications, and experiences in VR. Basically taking a page out of the mobile playbook, thinking, well, it worked for mobile, this is going to work for VR. I don't think it will, and we're going to talk through that. The big thing about delivering through an app store is that we have friction. There's friction for the user. They have to make a conscious decision about downloading potentially very big application files, very large pieces of content, and then installing them on their computers and going through multiple clicks in order to do that. There's friction from the point of view of the content creator. Basically, someone else is controlling how that content gets to the end user. They can't just put things up on the web and people can see them. This has all kinds of ramifications. It has ramifications for the cost of development, for the hassles around development, for the type of people you need to actually build and deliver the experiences. And that inherently then limits the kinds of businesses you can be in. Sure, a game studio can build a AAA title, spend the money on that, labor through getting it through all the app stores, have all their experts on staff that can do all of those things. But that's not every content creator out there. And for a lot of people, the expense that goes along with that does not justify the return they're going to get, because maybe they're doing some simple little cottage business. Maybe they're in a world where their business doesn't even fit going through an app store. We're going to talk about that in a second. A lot of these experiences we're seeing in early VR are very much solitary, in a silo, single user. Yeah, there are some multiplayer things, but they're still very crude and they're very limited and they're not particularly social. When these experiences are being developed, you're typically using a proprietary stack, a tool like Unity or Unreal, a very expert type of game engine. I mean, these are great tools, and especially when you look at Unity, it's totally unleashed VR development and game development before it for indies and for pretty much everyone. And it's a fairly easy tool to use relative to using a game engine. However, if you are not a game developer and don't have the expertise that goes along with that, and that's a pretty serious learning curve, even with something like Unity, which is free and accessible and as easy as you can get, it's pretty hard, and for a lot of people, you're left out of the game. Generally, this is changing in VR, but that world also comes with a culture that's not about sharing. It's not about giving away their source code. It's not about sharing secrets. It's a lot about keeping trade secrets, right? And it's a world of experts only, again. Beyond that, there's something else we got to think about here, which is, this is a favorite story I like to tell. There was an app called Ferguson Firsthand, developed by Empathetic Media in New York, little shop, they're journalists, and it was a recreation of the Michael Brown shooting, and it was rejected out of the Apple App Store. You know, they used Unity, they built apps for Cardboard for iOS and Android stores, and whoever was minding the store at the Apple Store decided it was too narrow and topical to be a valid app to be published in the store. Now, I don't know about you, but from a point of view of journalistic freedom, that terrifies me. You know, maybe it's a small point in the grand scheme of things in terms of business, but it's at least something that is food for thought. So, you know, I want to think about these things a little differently and frame it differently. Let's look at how the World Wide Web works. When you're on the web, you're in a browser, you see something, you click a link, and you experience it immediately. You don't have to install it, you don't have to think about it. If you like it, you keep reading. If you don't, you move on to the next thing. If you're a developer and you want to publish some content, you can share it instantly, push it out to the cloud. You can use whatever tools you want, and you don't have anybody telling you whether it's a valid app or a website. It's basically up there live, and if you can reach an audience, people are going to get it. No one's going to decide it is not worthy or not appropriate porn, etc., right? So that's the world of the web. Also, you publish instantly, and your content's always fresh. I mean, anyone who's ever gone through trying to do an app update and go through the store, you know what this is like if you're an app developer, right? And I like to think about this. So I was around in those early days of the web. Imagine what the web would be like if in order to get your news daily, you would have to download a new PDF every morning. There would be no web. We would not be in this room, most likely, right? I mean, if you think about all the implications of that. And this stuff runs everywhere. Basically, it's been designed, you know, through dint of a lot of hard work on a lot of people's parts to work on every kind of machine that's out there. But didn't mobile kill the web? I mean, that's what you're probably thinking, Tony, you're living in the past. Not really. In fact, they just kind of hooked up one night and had a baby. There was a long time there where web technology wasn't kind of up to snuff with where mobile was and didn't have quite all the capabilities, but browsers ultimately caught up. And one other thing happened. Technologies were created so that applications could absorb web content. If you think about the apps you use every day, let's say Twitter, Slack, Facebook, the majority of the content you're seeing in there is actually web content. Someone makes a share on Facebook, you click on that link, boom, you're seeing it right inside that app on your mobile phone or your iPad, but it's actually just web content. So, you know, what if we could make the web eat up VR, because it eats up every other technology, right? So that's what we're thinking about here. But there's one more point. You know, I thought maybe this was all just theoretical, and I was indeed just sort of trying to relive past dreams of when the web just took everything over. But it's not just about technology. I started studying this in terms of numbers. And here's what I discovered. If you look at the two app stores, the Google Play Store and the iOS Store, total together there's about 3 million applications. There are 1 billion websites. Now, granted, only a quarter of them are active, but still, that's 250 million or so. That is 2 orders of magnitude bigger. So contemplate that for a moment, and then consider the 60 trillion web pages or so that have been indexed. And that's the scale we're talking about. So, again, if we had this, we wouldn't now have to build an app just to see a Paul McCartney video and then have a different app to see a Coldplay video. We would just be seeing videos that are published on the web in 360, and they're coming. They're happening right now. And they'd be indexed, searchable, discoverable a lot more easily than swiping through that thing all day long in your Gear VR. We could hit web scale, business models like I was talking about, the long tail, like journalism, advertising, e-commerce. We can now enable these things where they're never going to be delivered in an app. No one's going to download an app just to be advertised to. It doesn't work that way. But they will go to some New York Times online experience at some point, and if they see some ad-supported content in there, that's the price of their attention. That's just going to work. And we now have the opportunity to get all these screens and all this information everywhere around us in AR and VR. And it's the world's information. It's already on the web. We're going to be sucking that in and bringing that together. So, I'm not going to labor on the technology a little bit, but let's just talk about, too much, but let's just talk about it a little bit. This has got to be built on standards. Standards are never fun. No one wants to sit in standards committees all day. I did my time doing that. I don't like it. But they have to happen. If we didn't have standards, these lights wouldn't be on, my mic wouldn't work, this building probably wouldn't be standing around us. So, these are a necessary part of building a global infrastructure. And we're going to have standard formats for 360 video on the web. We're going to have standard formats for 3D graphics on the web. I'll talk about them briefly. And it's all going to be in a big open platform with a lot of open source technology behind it. Everyone know what WebGL is? WebGL is 3D in your browser. It works everywhere. It works on this. It works on every device. And it's 3D graphics running in your browser now. And that is the foundation. Everything we talk about in VR and AR is basically 3D graphics. Maybe people thought WebGL was a luxury when it's just playing a little racer game on your mobile phone, or even being able to deploy an MMO in your browser without any download friction. But when we're talking full immersion, you need your 3D graphics. So the web is already up to snuff on that. It already does that, and it does it for billions of seats. So we're almost there. We just need to add the VR and AR support, and that's coming. You can already build web-based VR applications, mobile Safari, mobile Chrome, mobile Firefox, for Cardboard. WebGL just render that stuff side by side, and you're going to get your sort of cardboard suboptimal head tracking. It's not the best, but you can do these bite-sized nuggets of VR today with web technology. But beyond that, what we're seeing now is about 2 years ago, the folks from Mozilla, same folks who actually created WebGL originally, decided to hook an Oculus Rift up to the Firefox browser. And out of those early experiments was born something called WebVR. And they came to a first meetup of my WebGL people in San Francisco in the summer of 2014. And when they showed up to demo this WebVR demo on Firefox, they brought Brandon Jones from the Google Chrome team, and they were showing the same content running in 2 VR browsers 2 years ago. Now they've been dusting off the API, making it work a lot better, and now they're just about to finalize that set of technologies that lets you as a developer write JavaScript code and deliver VR content to anybody. Again, with you just seeing a link, clicking it, no download, content delivered on the spot. And it's actually, we can run Quake levels in this. There's a lot of great VR content being developed as we speak. There's working groups going on out in standards land. If you care about this stuff, we'll publish the slide content later so you can get these links. And it's a really collaborative effort, and it's going really well. And if you get Chromium for your Vive and Oculus Rift today, you download a special build of it, you can actually walk around the internet, if you will, in simple experiments that were published in WebVR. So it's already working. It's in development stages, but it's going to ship this year. And it's actually going to ship in mobile Chromium for Daydream, according to Google, too. So that's going to be a fantastic day when that happens. And I only have a few seconds left, but I want to talk a little bit about an ecosystem. Yeah, you can actually use Unity to build these things. It's got some WebGL and WebVR export. You can also use a bunch of different open source frameworks for this. And another thing I've been involved in recently is a standard called GLTF, which is the GL transmission format. It's essentially a JPEG of 3D. So there's already an open 3D format for publishing VR. So I encourage you to look at that. And just want to leave you with this one thought. Imagine that future 5 years from now when we have one platform that we can develop and publish to. It's going to hit all those devices and those billions of seats and those billions of faces. Imagine what that world's going to look like. And that's what I call the immersive web. Thank you.